Welcome to the UK PT's podcast, where we delve into the world of personal training one episode at a time. Here are your hosts, Joshua Mullin and Mark Laws.
Hi and welcome to the UK PT's podcast. Today we're recording episode number 3 with Emma Storey-Gordon. I'm Joshua Mullin and this is my co-host Mark Laws. How you doing, Mark?
I'm very good, Josh. Good morning to you. How are you?
Can't complain. I've got my protein shake, I've got my espresso. I'm all good to go.
And hopefully you've got all your questions for Emma.
100%. So from what I know, well, the stuff that I've seen about Emma, like Body Power and some of the expos that I've been to when she's been speaking, is that she specializes in a lot of nutrition and coaching skills and stuff like that. But what do you know about Emma and what she does?
I've known of Emma now for probably 6 or 7 years. I've known her sort of personally for 4 or 5 years. Nutrition comes high up on her agenda of specialized subjects, something that she's very well educated and a good practitioner as well. But I think you sort of also don't underestimate her holistic sort of mindset approach to things and how that will help clients, and not only giving people the nuts and bolts of the theory of what to do, but being able to apply that as well. She's one of the few sort of people that are very, very highly regarded educators who still have a huge amount of the most average of clients that she deals with on a daily basis. So from that regard, for a personal trainer, it's this should be gold dust.
Okay, amazing. Well, she's in the waiting room now, so let's let her in and we'll get started.
Cool beans.
Boom. Okay, Emma, the first section we're going to cover is the 27 Club. So we've got 27 questions split into 3 rounds for you. So the first round is education, the second round is industry, and the third round is personal. You've got 90 seconds.
Okay.
And Mark, I believe you're taking round number 1.
Yes, mate, I am going. You run the stopwatch?
Did?
Oh, see, I'm already nervous.
Emma,
it's the stopwatch.
Don't be
Make me
nervous. Don't be nervous.
Right.
Just answer really quickly.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? Go.
Emma Storey-Gordon, in which year did you qualify as a personal trainer?
2010.
Who was the education provider?
Active IQ.
And how long did it take you to complete your studies from start to finish?
Well, I did my this is really boring, but I did my gym instructor level 2, and then I worked for a while as a gym instructor / cleaner, and then I did my personal training. I think the personal training course was quite short. I don't actually remember how long, but there's like 2 parts, I guess. Maybe
Okay.
both 6 weeks. But gym instructor is like a week, isn't it?
It depends. It depends.
You can drag that baby out.
Yeah, you're running out of time. What was the last CPD that you completed?
Cancer rehab.
And what is the next bit of CPD that you've got your eye on?
None at the moment.
Okay. What is the highest level of qualification or education that you possess?
Undergrad.
Should a personal trainer ever be reassessed? And if so, how often?
In an ideal world, yes, but I don't think it's practical.
Okay. We're out of time, but we're going to ask the last 2. What skill did you gain on your PT course that you use most often today?
Probably nothing. Genuinely nothing.
And
Don't
on a
think
scale,
I learned.
on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at your job?
8.
8 out of 10. Solid. Okay, wasn't too bad, was it?
It's okay.
Josh, round 2.
Told you I'd ruined the timer.
Fuck the timer.
Okay, round 2.
Josh, round 2. You ready?
I am ready. So
Off you go.
So name the most underrated person, product, or thing in the fitness industry.
Dan Osman.
Nice. Name the most overrated person, product, or thing in the fitness industry.
Vibram plates.
Nice.
Vibram plates vibrate. What are they called? Vibrating plates. What are they?
Power plate.
Power plates. That's it. But also Vibrams. So there's a little mix for you. Yeah.
Double whammy. Which book should all personal trainers read?
I have no idea.
Foam rolling, yes or no?
No.
For how long did you do gym hours before being exclusive as a personal trainer?
About a year and a half.
Nice. Which common fitness myth do you wish you could debunk forever?
Carbs are bad.
It's a good one. What's the best piece of work-related advice you've ever been given?
Over deliver.
Nice. Who would be the ultimate fitness industry podcast guest for you?
Oh, I've had them all.
What are your favourite 3 exercises?
Pull-ups. To be honest, I can't really do that much else because I really hurt my back. So only really upper body I can do. So pull-ups, push-ups, lateral raises.
Nice. That's it. Done.
How would your answer differ if you didn't have a bad back? Would you have anything else in there?
Probably something lower body. I like a lunge. Or I
Mm.
did like a lunge.
So
I think lunges are underrated.
Agreed. What did you do to your back?
I slipped a disc. And then I recently had back surgery.
Okay. Damn. Well, I hope you recover soon.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, Emma, round 3. Are you ready? You good to go?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What is your favourite city that you've ever visited?
Sydney.
If you could attend any concert, dead or alive, who would be playing?
I don't know.
What was the last television series that you watched or streamed an episode of?
Grey's Anatomy.
If you could choose anybody to play you in a movie about your life, who would it be?
I have no idea.
Oh dear. Tea or coffee, how do you take it?
Well, tea with milk, obviously. Coffee black.
Obviously. Would you rather
Obviously.
go back in time to speak to your ancestors or forwards in time to speak to your descendants?
Forwards.
Forwards. Would you rather shag a goat and nobody will ever know about it? Or would you rather not shag the goat, but everybody thinks that you did?
Okay, I've been thinking about this one quite a lot. And I think I need a little bit more detail. Like, how
Okay.
am I shagging this goat? Like, what?
Um,
Do I have a strap on or...
okay, you're kind of calling my bluff here because I haven't contextualized it that much. But let's think about it. So if you've got a strap on and you're essentially pegging the goat rather than shagging, would that be a yes?
No. It's still going to be a solid no. I would rather people think that I've shagged the goat, and I'd probably just play it, like I don't know, I just make it a quirk of mine. Just have to embrace it. Makes me hashtag real and authentic, I think.
Yeah, why not? Here comes Emma the goat shagger. That could catch on.
Yeah.
I think we might might have gone over time, but I've got one question to go. But we had some important things to clarify on the goat front. Question 9, could you please tell us one thing that is still on your bucket list other than pegging a goat?
1,000 people in the EC method.
1,000 people in the EC method. Very good. Cool beans.
That was exactly 3 minutes. That was good. That was a good round.
We had some very important elements to clarify on some of my vague questions. So you're forgiven for going over time.
What did Rachel say?
Well, surprisingly enough, everybody just came out very quickly with, of course, I wouldn't shag the goat. And I'll just let people think I had. But I like the fact that you gave it a bit more thought than that.
Yeah, I just think it might eat me up inside. That's why I couldn't, unfortunately.
It's a very pressing matter, and I'm glad that we've clarified it.
Yeah, you might want to think about clarifying that for your female guests.
Maybe. Josh, you were going to ruin this all this goat shagging talk with some sort of like meaningless fitness-based question, weren't you?
Yeah, I was just going to do some sort of interview style question.
Boring.
So Emma,
give the people what they want.
What's your journey so far? Like, I know it's quite a big question, but what got you into the fitness industry and how did you get started qualification wise?
So I left school and my parents sort of, I wouldn't say forced me, but they expected me to go to uni. And all I really cared about was sports. I was like, oh, I just do sports science, which I think is what like most people that do sports science do. Like, I like PE, I'll do sports science. So, and most of the way through uni, I was sort of still in that like headspace. And then in the last year, we did a module on exercise and health. And that really sparked my interest. And after uni, I went and worked in a diabetes research lab. So I did that for a while, and I got more into sort of the scientific research side of things and more on a molecular basis and less to do with any sport, actually. It was more like pure diabetes research. And I worked in diabetes and cardiovascular disease for a couple of years. I started a master's, dropped out of the master's. I started a PhD, dropped out of the PhD. And then and all through this, I was personal training as well, like, but as a bit of a like side thing that I just enjoyed doing. But I guess I was slowly building my business and I was putting out stuff online and writing articles and Facebook posts and things like that. And and then once the PhD sort of failed, that was like the big kick up the bum for me to be like, right, if you're going to do this, like you need to actually start making money from it. You need to put your effort into it. And that was sort of the turning point. And then, from there, just sort of building business.
Nice. So have you had any kind of regrets with your journey so far? Is there anything that you would go back and change?
Honestly, at this point, no. I actually think that at the time, like dropping out of that PhD, and I say dropping out, there's a bit more to it than that, but that was like a huge failure to me, and I'd worked really hard to get there. And at the time it was pretty crap, but actually it's the best thing, hands down the best thing that has ever happened to me. Like if I had kept doing that, I maybe would have graduated earlier this year, and to think I would have been coming out of like university like in this situation, and basically I love my job. I would not change it for a thing. And I thought in my head that I needed that doctor's title to have that like prestige kind of thing. I think it was more like an ego thing, and I don't know if I thought it would impress my parents or if I was doing it for the wrong reasons, but I would have just come out of that with a PhD and started doing what I do now, but I would have been 4 years behind where I am. Yeah. So I'm really happy that happened. But yeah, at the time it was a bitter pill to swallow.
Imagine. But I guess it's like a lot of the people that we've interviewed so far and past interviews have said, is that you don't really regret it if you learn from it. It becomes something that helps you grow as a person, and therefore you don't need to regret it. So with your business at the moment, if you don't mind me asking, what's kind of your setup? What do you mainly do as a coach? Do you focus more on nutrition, or are you a bit of everything? Like, how do you work?
So I have sort of numerous aspects to my business, I guess, or numerous businesses. I run a large group coaching program with Chloe Madeley that's called the EC Method. And that's, I mean, most of our clients are women who have tried numerous diets before, and it's a little bit about education, it's about holding them accountable, and it's about giving them the support that they actually need to finally get the results they want, but not just get them. Because what we find is that most women that come on the EC Method have lost weight before. Like, most people who have tried to lose weight have lost weight before, but it's then that they've put that back on. And we like to be able to help people maintain that process and not feel over restricted, live a balanced life and enjoy life. And remember that diet and exercise is meant to make you feel better, not worse. I think that's like a key sort of part of it. So that, and then I have a smaller group coaching program called Commit to 6, which has one-to-one check-in. So it's a bit of a smaller niche there. With a little bit more support and a little bit more of a personal touch. And then I've got one-to-one clients, and I have coaches that work under me who have their own one-to-one clients within ESG Fitness. And then I have a nutrition education course with Amelia Thompson. I don't know if you're going to have Amelia on, aren't you?
We will do, yeah, at some point, definitely.
Yeah, and that's a nutrition education course called EIQ Nutrition.
Is that aimed at like the consumer, the end client, or do you find some personal trainers doing that to learn how to then help their clients?
Yeah, we have about, I would say, 80-90% personal trainers.
Oh, wow.
And then there's some clients that have worked with me for a while, and they're like, oh, I just really enjoy the science side and I want to know a little bit more, but I don't actually want to be a personal trainer. Fine. But yeah, most of our clients or most of our students are personal trainers. And what we really emphasize is, like, we have all the lectures which you would probably expect from like an online university style course, but then we also do podcasts after each of them where we discuss it in a more coaching manner, like, okay, this is what the evidence says, but how do we apply that, and in what situations do we apply that, and why might we not apply it, and why would we, and where's the hierarchy of importance here. So it's a very applied course. We also do lives every week, which is kind of like tutorial type things, but they tend to be a lot of I have a client like that, kind of case studies. Like, students will be like, I have a client like this, I'm really struggling with doing this, what would you do in this situation, is there any evidence for X, Y, and Z, etc.
Nice.
This when as we were doing the intro, and Josh asked me what I know about you and sort of what I'm looking forward to in terms of having you on. And one of the things that I mentioned was that I know you have a very good scientific background, but I also am fully aware that you spend a hell of a lot of time working with real clients on a daily basis in terms of how to apply things. So if I go sort of off Josh's questioning for a minute, go slightly off track, where does the balance lie in between, in terms of if I've got a client, how much of the scientific stuff is really important, and how much is the way I implement it and the application very important? Obviously, there's going to be a crossover, but where does a personal trainer maybe try to sit on that spectrum of application and highly scientific information?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think a lot of people get a bit confused about this, and it's a false dichotomy, isn't it? Like, you need both. There is no excuse not to have both. If you're a personal trainer, or if you're looking for a personal trainer, you need to have experience and be able to apply information. Like, information is useless without application. There's no point knowing a hell of a lot. That's why, the best scientists don't make good doctors or personal trainers or whatever research area they're in. The application is so important. And yeah, I think people do get, I just don't, it's not even an argument. It's like you need to have both. But I do understand, I think what's really important is understanding the limitations of research as well. And that's something we teach a lot in the course. But generally, if you're looking at research, you're looking at averages here. So you're saying that your client is, and maybe they will, but you're saying that your client is going to respond the same as other people will on average, because that's what research is looking at. You take a group of people, you see what they do on average, and you see if that's had a significant effect. Now, within that group, there will be people who respond more, who respond less, and actually you don't know how your specific client is going to respond. So yeah, there are a lot of nuances, and especially within sports science, like it's quite a soft science in many ways because the sample sizes tend to be quite small. They tend to all be men. Like there isn't much research on women. And as much as you can like take a step on like the feminist stool or whatever and be like, oh, there should be more research on women. Having worked in research, it's bloody hard to research women. Like if you're looking at the effect of a training program, but you also know that our hormonal fluctuations over the week could completely mask like 6 months of training progress, over the month, then it's an extremely hard population to measure. Whereas with men, there isn't as much fluctuation there. So it's a very hard thing to control. And I understand why a lot of the research is done in men, but we also have to understand that it may or may not be directly applicable to women. And same with other things, like most research is done in male collegiate men between, 22 and 30 or something. And when it's not, in other cases, like you just need to make sure you're looking at the population things are done in. A lot of the protein research is done in like sarcopenic old men, and you see amazing results in improved sort of muscle mass and stuff. And you're like, well, that's not the case for a lot of my clients. So yeah, I think being able to read research, being able to interpret it, and being able to apply it, and also being able to say when it's not applicable, that's the skill that we need to have as trainers.
Do you have any recommended resources for learning how to read studies and research papers and stuff?
Yes, I do. It's called EIQ.
Oh,
no, but
Emma?
We do cover that in quite a lot of detail, and unfortunately I don't have like a resource that would do that directly. I think it's and I will say, like, one of the things that I learned at uni and from doing like starting these PhDs and things, like, was reading research, and it's extremely hard to do out with your field. Like, I've tried to read research in other areas that I have like no idea over it. For example, like coronavirus, it's so hard to know which bits to pick out. Even if you're looking at methodologies, I have no idea what half of these things mean, and then you have to go and look at what methodology that is, the pros and cons to that methodology, and all these crazy things. Even if you look at like protein research, different ways of measuring like muscle protein synthesis or improved muscle mass, they all have pros and cons, and if you don't understand those, then you don't know what's applicable, and it's quite a long process. But here's some like general good tips, is that maybe looking at a review or a meta-analysis that is looking over sort of the body of research and showing what the body of research as a whole suggests to do is a good place to start, because you will always be able to find a study to support your view, but you'll also be able to find one that completely contradicts that view as well.
We all know that guy.
Yeah.
Well, that
used to be.
That's something that's sort of, it's a big, for me, it seems to be a big factor in the personal training industry, where you get these like divisions of person A who thinks one thing, and if person B thinks something different, they have no choice but to argue all day on a Facebook group chat as to why the other is an idiot for thinking something different. Whereas in actual fact, they could both be right, just for different reasons. And I find myself going around in circles so many times in this UK PTs group. It happens a lot, but you see it everywhere else as well, where just because one person thinks one thing about a subject, they cannot fathom that somebody else has a different experience and it might be a positive one.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to stay open-minded, like be critical, but also be open-minded that you might be wrong, or the science in itself like will change. Like that's the whole point in it, is that you can prove and disprove things, and what we thought might once have been the case might actually not be the case. There might be benefits to doing certain things that we don't know about yet. And a lot of the time, especially within sports science, the experience and the coaches are actually ahead of the research. Like prime example being, people were doing HIIT training far before we knew the molecular reasons that HIIT training has such a positive effect on health. So sometimes you're looking at, oh, that has a, like, why are people getting such great results doing HIIT? Let's study it, rather than the other way around, and that we should use evidence to inform our practice. Sometimes it comes back the other way.
That makes a lot of sense. So that kind of ties in a little bit with my next question. Before you were injured, what was kind of your overall training and nutrition philosophy? So with yourself and your clients?
I don't think it's particularly changed because of my injury. I guess it changes at different aspects of or different times in your life. And I think that is something that people should accept as well, that at different times in their life, even within a year, there might be phases where nutrition and exercise is more or less important, but it's about, a term I always use is imperfect action. So there's things that I class as like non-negotiables. So for me, I'll always get my steps in every day. I'll always eat 3 nutritious, healthy, balanced meals with a high source of protein at each one. And like, I'll always get to the gym at least 3 times a week. Those are like my non-negotiables. Now, at certain times, I might train 5 times a week, but at other times when I've got a lot on, I might go back to 3 times a week. But keeping those foundations and not going in this like on-off mentality that a lot of people fall into with the yo-yo dieting or the yo-yo training, that kind of helps you stay on track. But yeah, allowing yourself, there will be times where there's other things that are just simply more important and have to take priority, but not then thinking, oh, well, may as well do nothing.
Yeah. So with your, say, 3 days a week minimum, up to, say, 5-6 days a week training, how would you structure that? What would be your kind of go-to kind of split or movement patterns?
Usually, and for clients, push-pull legs, kind of just to cover everything. At the moment, it's just like upper body, upper body, upper body, because I can't do anything lower body. But I'm a strong believer in, I mean, this injury, again, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it did teach me a lot. And I think in many ways, it's made me a more empathetic coach. And yeah, like, I think just being able to concentrate on what you can do and not what you can't do, and not comparing yourself. One, I found like comparing yourself to others is hard, and obviously not something you should be doing, but also comparing yourself to your previous self. That's something I really have to stop myself doing at the moment. It's like, oh, I used to be able to do all this stuff. And realistically, I might not ever be able to do a lot of those things again, which like is something I mean, compared to how much pain I was in, it's like night and day. So I'm very grateful. And I'm still in like, I think the honeymoon period where I'm like so grateful just to be able to go for walks. And like, I'm sitting down right now. I actually didn't sit down for almost 6 months.
Wow.
Like I could only lie down or stand up. And now I'm sitting down, which is just like an amazing feeling. So I can't remember what the question was now, but yeah.
It's just about your training splits, but you answered with legs, push, pull. So, well, push, pull,
yeah.
The standard. Love that. So going back to your business and your journey so far, do you have any kind of investments that you can think of that have paid off the most for you? So that could be training courses you've been on, or networking that you've done, people that you've met. What have kind of been the best investments for you in your business?
I work a lot and really hard, and I think I worked a lot and was underpaid, but I could see the longer picture. And I think this happens with a lot of PTs. They're like, what, I'm only getting this much, I'm not doing it. Like, and you see bigger PTs, like I might say now, I wouldn't do anything for less than, I don't know, X amount per hour, because it isn't worth my time. But you have to look at the other things that's bringing you. So for example, I used to coach on a group coaching program under another coach. And I learned a hell of a lot from him in terms of business. And two, I built a big client base off that, but I was paid very little for it. However, it not only gave me so much experience of working with so many clients, but it also enabled me to then over deliver on that coaching program, which made me look better than the other coaches, because they were like, I'm only getting £15 a client. Oh, I can't be bothered. Whereas there's two reasons I did that. One, because I could see the bigger picture. And two, because I couldn't sleep at night if anyone was like, oh yeah, I worked with Emma, she never replied to me. Or like, she didn't really seem to care about my results. Like I just have too much respect for myself and my business to do that. And for my clients, of course. Yeah. So I think seeing the long-term goal is really important, and knowing that there will be periods of your life where you probably have to work a bit more for less in order to at some point build something big enough that maybe you're working very little and gaining a lot. And I think within fitness, and especially probably new PTs, will look up at someone like where they want to be and be like, oh, they only work 4 hours a week. Like, that's what I should be doing. No. They work 4 hours a week now because they used to work 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week on the gym floor for years and years and years. And you haven't seen that. And I remember, because I've been in the industry, like so's Mark, I mean, for over 10 years. And I remember some of the people now that are like, oh yeah, I only work this much. Know your worth, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you used to work 60-hour weeks in the gym floor. Like, you have to build the foundation to get there.
Massively agree. I think there's so many people that read 4-hour work week. I think I've got it here somewhere, or something similar, and they go, oh, I'm going to live the laptop lifestyle and live on a beach and work 4 hours a month. And it's just, yeah, it's a bit of a myth, isn't it?
It's taken a little bit too literally, isn't it? And in this current climate we find ourselves in terms of like from a social media kind of dominance, it's so easy to just look at all of these influential people talking about their lavish freedom of their lifestyles, and then if you're new to the game, you're hoodwinked into thinking that's what you should be doing. Whereas, and as Emma's just very eloquently put it, is like there's probably decades of graft in there that have given you the opportunity to earn the right to not work as much because you've done 50, 60, 70-hour weeks for so long.
Yeah, and there'll be like building a business takes time, building a reputation takes time. And there seems to be a bit of a focus on money in the fitness industry at the moment, which I don't really like. People sharing like screenshots of their bank statements and like, oh, I made this person this much money, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't give a shit how much money you're making people. Like, what, are your clients happy? Are your clients getting results? Are you educated? Is the information you're giving out good? Like, I don't care how much money you're making. And I think, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's more about impact than income, and the income will come when you make the impact. So if I can have, is like with the EC method, what makes me so excited about it is we have huge numbers of women on there that we can impact directly to better their lives. Like that's enough payment for me. I would be doing this if I was making 10 times less than I am. And I was doing it, making 10 times less than I am. So, the money will come if you can get people results, if you can support your clients, if you show that you actually care. And I think to stop chasing that and stop being like, oh yeah, I make 10K a month, or I'm a 6-figure PT, or, whatever. Nah.
Bullshit. Well, on that one, Emma, the EC method, how did that link, the connection with Chloe come about?
Oh, this is funny because I actually just got a story pop up, and it was like the first time me and Chloe did a live 2 years ago, and I was doing Instagram lives for some reason, just like interviewing different people, and she'd messaged me being like, "Oh, I really love your lives." And I actually didn't know who she was, so I went on her page and I was like, "Oh, she's got loads of followers." I was like, "Would you like to come on?" No, having no idea who she was. And then like I remember she replied and it must have been the start of October, and she was like, "Yeah, I can do like the 24th of October." And I was thinking, all right, I was thinking I can do tomorrow night, but sure, whatever. So it's like booked her in, like, okay, big shoes. And then someone like on the day was like, that's Richard and Judy's daughter. And I was like, oh. So yeah, anyway, we got chatting, good friends. I went on her podcast after that. And then from the back of her podcast, I got a hell of a lot of business. And I kept saying to Chloe, I was like, you could build something brilliant. And it wasn't even we could build something brilliant. I was like, if you had a platform and I can help you do this online, then, you would have a huge client base. And she was like, yeah, I'm not sure. And then she was like, I'd like to do it with you. So then we just sort of teamed up, did it together. And now, I think this is our 4th round, and it's just gone amazingly well. And it's the first round was just at the start of lockdown, and we'd planned to start, and we were like, oh, should we just wait until lockdown's over? Thank God we didn't, because here we are, like how many months later, still going on. But I also think it's been a really nice space for people to connect and stay motivated, stay accountable to someone, feel supported during this time as well. So
yeah, that's cool. It's refreshing to see somebody with a celebrity status providing good, solid, sound, sane, rational information, rather than the opposite end of the spectrum, like buy this tablet, buy this cream, or just putting their name on any old shit just to make a little bit of money.
Yeah, and I think, that's why I wanted to work with Chloe, is because she is a brilliant personal trainer, and then she also has this platform as well. So the messages that she gives out are just excellent. Wow. She's got both, which I think is quite rare. You're right.
Yeah, that definitely is. I would say it's unique. I can't think of many or any others.
Yeah. It's that kind of, it's the point at which someone becomes a sellout, isn't it? That's the problem, generally.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seems that obviously that hasn't happened, which is amazing. It's what is needed. And that actually, you said something a little while ago, and I was going to ask a question about, in regards to your journey in the fitness industry so far, and I know I keep saying journey, I don't know why I've got no other words for it. Who have been your biggest influences in regards to maybe your education or your philosophy when it comes to working with clients?
I think business-wise, I have to give a shout out to Jamie Alderton, because I worked with him for many years, and I learned a lot from Jamie. We have very different businesses, and I would say very different ethoses from working with clients, but in terms of certain aspects of business, I learned a hell of a lot from him. And then I think probably from my current team and business partners, I've managed to surround myself with people that I am slightly intimidated by, and I love that. I love having to up my game, and I always want to impress them. Amelia is amazing at what she does, so intelligent, and I'm always looking to impress her, which is I think a nice place to be. And it definitely makes you up your game. But at the moment, I would say Amelia, Chloe, my coaching team as well.
Nice. So again, another kind of business question, or around your philosophies. So if you could give one key piece of advice to personal trainers out there that are listening to this podcast, that are maybe, let's say a year into the industry, 2 years into the industry, if you give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would probably be that like impact over income, and not to stress too much about how much money you're making at the moment. Like, I understand that you have to make money to live, but there's a difference between making enough to live, understanding it's a process, using the extra time that you have now, not just to over deliver to your clients, but also to make sure that you're putting out good information, that you're further educating yourself. Like, finishing your personal training course is not enough. If you want to fast track some of the experience that, you know, that would take years and years to develop, then get on a good education course and try and learn from people that are there. But yeah, I wouldn't rush it. Like, no one's expecting you to be the best personal trainer in the world after just qualifying, or have the biggest business in the world after just qualifying. And try not to get too sucked into what people are showing online, especially with how much they're earning, and, you know.
Rolls her eyes dramatically for those not watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
That was a very dramatic eye roll. It was
a double eye roll. I went
Mark,
round like,
what are your thoughts on that?
Go on, Mark.
What, on advice for a PT, or?
Yeah, or more just like, I see a lot of personal trainers at the moment is like creating a bit of kind of imposter syndrome, that they should be earning this much, or that they should be charging more. And in fact, okay, here's a good one. I saw a post someone had put up, and it was about how, I think there's also this notion that everyone wants to be quote unquote high ticket and charge £1,000 a month to work with them. That's not the case. Like, I am more than happy to be, and I think they even compared it to, you're either the Rolex of the fitness industry or you're the Casio. I want to be the Casio. I want to be affordable. I want to help more people. I want to impact more people. Hell yeah. I've not got a Casio one, but I do have what looks like an Apple Watch, but it's actually a £30 version.
It's a knockoff.
Yeah. So maybe that does symbolize me.
Yeah. It's definitely an issue that has got worse over the last probably 4 or 5 years. I've noticed it a lot since I've been working full time in education, that there's this desperation, for want of a better word, a desperation to be a 100 grand a year trainer. Now that's not even enough. Now it has to be 20 grand a month or 100 grand a month. I saw one business guru sort of saying that a PT should be on 100 grand a month. That is fucking dreamland. There might be one or two people.
Do you know what? It kind of isn't. Like, once you start earning a lot of money, realize how little you get from that. And then you've got to take a step back and think, what is it I actually want? Like, what would I do with more money? Yeah. How would that change my quality of life? Is it just going to add more stress? And I'm sure people have seen before, but there's a really cool graph if you just Google it, like happiness versus income. And I'm pretty sure it peaks at about 60 grand a year. And it's probably because over that point, one, it's not adding to your quality of life. But two, it just means it's more stress. Like, you have to work harder. And I'm not saying, I mean, I have quite big financial goals just because I want them, but I understand the pros and cons of those and like the limitations of them. And I don't think I get too carried away with them. And I always come back to remembering my values, which is I really want to help as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And as a byproduct of that, I probably will make a lot of money, but it's a byproduct.
Of course, if you spend enough years in the trenches getting good enough at a trade that provides a good enough service to enough people, it doesn't matter whether you're painting nails, building walls, or training people in a gym, or training people online. Like, it doesn't matter what you're using, but it's possible to build a solid, financially secure business. That is for sure. And there was a post in the group where a lady sort of put a comment in, it said, started off something along the lines of, do people make good money in gyms? Blah, 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 blah. And then there begins the typical battle between like, you should be earning this amount a year. Well, no, that's not average. I only earn this amount. And like people arguing about shit. And I kind of just stepped in just before we came online. And that's not why we were late. Just to sort of say, well, look, it's so subjective in terms of working in a gym. Do you make good money? Well, what is good money? Because to probably 80% of the population, if you make $2.5 grand a month, that is good. That is very, very good. You can have a car, you can buy stuff for your kids at Christmas, you can go on holiday a couple of times a year, you've got 100 quid a month to go on the piss or to gamble or to smoke or whatever it is you want to do with your pocket money, and you can have a very happy life. Yes, some people might think that 10 grand a month is good, but some people would fucking rip your arm off if you gave them 1,500 quid a month. It's very, very subjective to the individual. And
I think the point with that is as well, if you're not personal training because you're not unless you have a passion to do this, get the fuck out of the industry. 100%. Like, this isn't why people should be personal training. Yes, you can make a lot of money doing it, but like, if you want to make a lot of money, go work in finance or something.
Yeah.
You should be being a personal trainer because you're passionate. Yes, you need to make enough money to live. Yes, business is important. And yes, like, some people do make a hell of a lot of money. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are better trainers. I know some trainers that don't make very much at all and are amazing at what they do. And I know some trainers that are making like 50 grand a month aren't worth shit.
Nate, will give us the names then.
No, I couldn't on either side, because that'd be embarrassing on either side, I think.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And when I'm delivering courses to PTs, or if I'm talking at events and stuff like that, I sort of try to steer PTs towards the way of thinking of like, here's all of the theory of whatever it is I've just tried to teach you how to be a better PT from a success point of view. If you can sit somewhere in the 40 to 60 grand a year bracket, you can have a fantastic life that's got a really good balance of freedom to do what you want when you want within reason, and you can have all of the stuff that you want to have. Yes, you're not going to be a millionaire or a billionaire, but you're also going to be earning way, way, way more than the average PT and the average Joe Bloggs in any other industry. Once
you hit that threshold, you have to earn a lot more to make it worth earning more. So there's that consideration as well. And I don't know whether, like, to give people their sort of credit, like, I don't know whether that's sometimes why people, when they get close to that, do become quite money hungry, because they're like, once I hit this, I really need to go beyond it, or actually I'm going to be like in the opposite, you know, like you're kind of earning more, but you're taking home less potentially. Yeah.
Agreed. Josh, have you got anything more sort of, we've covered a lot of the background stuff and about you and your projects and bits and pieces like that. Have you got anything left on that note, Josh?
I do. I've always got more questions, Mark. So Emma, obviously you've got a lot going on, different projects and stuff. So you've got the EIQ nutrition, you've got the EC method, and you've got all your private coaching clients. The question is, what's next? What have you got your eye on next?
There's always something next. I do have something in the pipeline, which is basically to help people manage more clients. I've developed with one of my coaches and sort of like kind of manager type role within my business. Nicola, she's amazing at what she does, and she's been able to systemize a lot of the things that we do very well, but really in a very smart way, so that you're taking out like everything that can be automated is automated, but you're not, because I think one thing that people try and automate everything and then there's no personal touch left. Mm-hmm. So everything that can be automated is automated, and the whole idea behind AFM is to automate everything so that you have time to do what you do best, which is coach. Because coaches don't want to be spending hours and hours like sending out check-ins, which could have been automated, or chasing up payments, or signing people up, like the sign up process, or running email ads or marketing or things like that. So it's sort of a all-encompassing thing. It is definitely going to be more for people who are at the stage of I have too many clients rather than I want to build a business. I have too many clients. How can I handle this many clients but still deliver the service that I want to deliver? Is kind of the answer that we are going to be delivering, or the solution that we are going to be delivering.
Nice.
So what would that be? Sort of like a piece of software or a platform that people log into, or
it's going to be a service.
Yeah.
So there will be numerous platforms used within said service to provide the coaching. Well, the structure of the coaching, you still provide the coaching, obviously.
Nice. Well, once you're ready to give out more information, because I can tell you're being slightly withdrawn.
Yeah, slightly withdrawn, just because we've sort of taken on about 5 people at the moment, and we want to make sure that they're perfect and happy and that everything's working well before we open up to anyone else.
So when you do open up, if you let me know, and then we can spread the word in UK PTs.
That would be lovely. Which is another sort of good point. I'd be interested to hear like both of your input on this, is the kind of debate between online personal trainers and face-to-face personal trainers. And I've been asked a few times this question about should you be a face-to-face trainer before you move online? Like, do you need that experience? And my response to that, now actually I think I want to hear your guys's first.
Well, do you know what? When I just asked Josh if he had any questions left on the background and that sort of stuff, I was going to lead with a question on online, offline. So it's you've either been cheating, reading my notes or something, or it was just a
great minds think alike.
Yeah. So my opinion is that you could have qualified as a personal trainer yesterday, have absolutely no experience whatsoever, set yourself up as an online only coach, and you could do a bloody good job of it. You could also do a fucking terrible job of it because you don't have any actual coaching experience. On the flip side, you could have been a PT in a gym for 20 years, have all the experience in the world, flip to online and be fucking terrible, or you can flip to doing online and you can be good. There's always going to be sort of 4 options as my on the fence get out card. There's my deep down inside, my genuine belief is that if we're looking at this from a nutritional perspective, which is, if I refer to that as theory-based, like I wouldn't want to upset anybody by that, but it's all kind of like just the theory of nutrition, and here is what you can do to eat or drink certain things at certain times. I think that's slightly different to exercise-based, which is practical, and then there's a lot I can gain from actually seeing you do something in the flesh compared to watching you do it over Zoom or Skype or whatever other platform wants to sponsor us. So my gut feeling is that from a physical aspect, I think if you've got good experience of face-to-face, hands-on coaching, very often it will be easier to transfer those skills onto an online platform. And I'm kind of using someone like myself as the guinea pig there, because I've avoided online training for probably 5 or 6 years that people have been telling me I should be doing it, because I was stubborn and I was a little bit scared of the technology, and because but mostly because I was a stubborn twat, sort of thing. No, a personal trainer has to be face to face because I need to be able to see everything. I need to walk around and look up and down from all angles like you see them doing in gyms. However, now being forced into a corner where you've got no choice, have to work online or go bust. Well, I've found a way of using my face-to-face coaching skills and executing them online. And I think I found it easier to deliver online because I've got that experience. But that doesn't mean that you have to have that experience to be able to do it. There will be anomalies, as you said, with like the research that takes an average. There will be outliers at both ends of the spectrum that can have all the experience in the world but fuck it up, and someone who's got no experience and do a fantastic job. Generally speaking, I would like to think the more experience you've got face to face, the better chances you've got of transferring that online. Does that sort of semi give you my stance?
Yes, Switzerland, it does.
Yeah. So I think with see, my view is quite similar, but because you've gone so neutral, I'm going to have to go the opposite way now. I'm just going to be that guy. I think that if you are an online personal trainer and you have never trained a client face to face, you are going to have massive problems recognizing your client's problems. And I think that you should, I think there should always be a degree of physical hands-on experience as an online trainer. But the caveat to that would be there are people that have trained for 20 years in a personal capacity and not with clients that would probably have just a good handle on it as someone that's got 2 years, 3 years, 4 years or whatever of client-facing experience. So I do think it does depend on the PT, but I would say, me personally, if somebody asked me, do I need to have experience before I go online, I would say yes. That's it.
Okay, well then I'm just going to take the opposite, just to debate. I actually think that they are, given I've done both, obviously, they're such different things that they're not comparable, really. Like, I think the skills that an online trainer needs are very different than the skills that a face-to-face trainer needs, and vice versa. And I am going to say it, I am a very good online coach. I am not that good a face-to-face trainer. Like, I'm all right, but I wouldn't say I'm anything special. Whereas online, that's where I excel. That's what I think I'm good at. And if I didn't think I was good at it, then I wouldn't be charging people to work with me. But I think just the platform, that there's a bit more like education, maybe habit-based things. Like, yes, if you're talking about teaching someone to squat, it's going to be done way better face-to-face. Of course it is. But if you're talking about teaching someone about nutrition principles, I think that's better online than trying to talk to them while they're on the cross trainer warming up about what they ate for lunch or something. Like, it doesn't really, it's not conducive to the environment that you're in. And I think that a lot is missed sometimes with face-to-face sessions, because you don't do the check-ins, you don't assess your week properly, because you're there in the workout. Oh, well, I'll see you next Monday and we'll, how was your week? Yeah, it was fine. Did some stuff, went to the gym twice, but like you don't really assess someone's week when you're speaking to them face to face. Whereas if you ask them to do a check-in, you ask them to sit down, take a bit of time, look back on their week, what went well, what didn't go well, how can we improve that for the next week? And you're really assessing things as you go on. I think that is a better process online, and you can have a hybrid of both, which is probably the best situation, and which is what I used to do when I worked face to face, is that they would still have online resources, but they'd also come in for a face-to-face session. But that was, I almost, even when working face-to-face, like those sessions were almost add-ons to the product, which was always like an online service. But yeah, that would be my thoughts, is that they're very different. And I think different personal trainers who work in different ways will benefit or will be better at either online or face-to-face.
Pretty much what I said then.
No.
I think that is very close to what I said. If it's not what I said, that's definitely what I meant.
Okay, fine. We'll agree to agree.
There's it's a question that comes up every now and then. You see you see one person successful as an online coach, then they then feel obliged to have to tell every other personal trainer that will listen, you have to work online. And I think what we sort of established is that maybe you don't. Some people will be better suited online. Some people are better suited offline. Some topics are better suited online, and some topics are definitely better suited to be offline or face to face. And it's sort of, if you have a niche part of your business, that means that you have the personality traits that's going to benefit from online, and you're targeting an area that's online, such as Emma Storey-Gordon, all sorts of manner of nutritional topics, then boom, you're going to have a fantastic online business. But that doesn't mean that then, say, somebody else who's teaching Olympic weightlifting and who is very extroverted and gets off on like the face-to-face interactions, they're going to have a better business face-to-face. It's, as always, it can be different and successful, even though it's different.
Yeah, I think like trainers have to remember what it is they enjoy as well. Like, do you enjoy online or do you enjoy face-to-face more? And some just absolutely love face-to-face coaching.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one, because you've that sort of ties in with the point you made a little while ago about the impact that you have should take priority over the income that you receive for it. And a sort of I think that's a very important message for a PT. If you kind of play to your strengths, be honest about your skills, your personality, whether it's like your organization, your communication skills, your coaching cues, be honest about what are your things that you are good at and what platform is that going to be best suited, and then how can you be fucking good at that skill on that platform. And if that's different to somebody else, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I love online, again, is that impact. Like, I couldn't work with like a tenth of the amount of people that I can work with online face to face, because there's just not enough time. But I do think there's one, like, if you're a personal trainer listening and thinking, oh, I hate talking to camera, like, everyone starts being crap at talking to camera, or everyone starts, not being that good at whatever it is they do. So don't put yourself in a box of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's like, I'm not good at social media. Okay, well, like, do you want, like, you might say, I'm not good at social media and I don't want to be good at it. Fine. But if you're saying, I'm not good at social media, so I'm not going to do it because it's not my strength, maybe you want to make it your strength. But then that's up to you and how you want to run your business.
I remember the first talk I did, like, on stage at an expo, was at SFN up in Glasgow. It was at the second SFN. So I went to the first one as an exhibitor, and I was there working on the Jordan Fitness stand. And then the second year we had a talking slot, and I was asked to do the talk. And I was fucking shitting myself, like actually shitting myself. They had me all mic'd up with about 5 minutes to go, and I'm looking at the chairs, and let's say there's 150 chairs, there's probably about 8 people sitting in the chairs. And bear in mind, I've sat next to this stage for 2 days, and I've seen, like, whether it's Chris Burgess or whether it was Mike Samuels or Ben Coomber, blah, blah, blah. There were well-established presenters talking, and as they were standing there doing their intro, there's about 4 people in the seats. Within 10 minutes, there's probably 100 people gathering around listening. So I'd watched it all day, and then I still stood there. I was shitting myself to the point where I had the microphone on and I went for a piss. And I'm standing there in the toilet next door thinking, well, if I can just take as long as possible to go for a piss, maybe when I go out, there'll be 100 people there. And then I came out and there's still no people. And I had to start doing my talk. I've never been so scared, so worried. Like, I've never doubted myself so much. However, now, if I happened to be strolling through an expo, just minding my own business, and someone popped up and was like, Mark, so-and-so's not turned up for their talk, can you do it? You're on in 3 minutes. I'd be like, fucking hell, yeah, let's go. Give me the microphone. my confidence would be through the roof. And that is only because of the jumping in at the deep end, finishing the talk. By the time you finish it, there's dozens of people there. A few people come over and say, oh, that was really interesting, blah, blah, blah. That's really helped me. And then before you know it, it's sort of like you think, actually, that wasn't that bad. And from facing up to your fears, almost like coming back to the social media aspect, whether it's doing a live to camera, whether it's recording a podcast or something like that, you just have to do it badly, learn from it, improve upon it, and gradually hone your skill, and you'll improve, won't you?
Exactly that.
Practice makes perfect.
Hopefully.
Right. I think it's time for us to move on, Mark.
Do you think? Hang on, just let me check. Josh is desperate to masturbate, Emma.
Thought he might be.
I can see when he starts leaning forward a little bit, I can tell that's when he's desperate.
I think you might have to pick a new one though, because I already discussed the one that we were going to talk about.
On the masturbate?
Yeah.
The masturbate is drawn from random.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
You'll get what you're given.
Okay.
I don't want people listening to this thinking that this show is fixed and that there's some form of preferential treatment where people discuss things beforehand, Emma. It is
Okay, I'm ready for the...
Yeah, well, anyway, I haven't finished my interview yet, so both of you can pipe down a little bit.
Okay.
Emma, I just wanted, before we finish the interview section, I just wanted to touch on, say, some of the nuts and bolts of a personal trainer's ability to do their job better from a nutritional perspective. So, in your opinion, with experience of dealing with regular clients and also educating personal trainers to plug the gaps in their knowledge, what do you think is the low-hanging fruit in terms of the things that personal trainers should adopt and implement in their business from a nutritional perspective? What areas are most important for them to get right?
I think that really depends on the goals of the client, but monitoring and adapting things, like I'm going to assume most things are about fat loss.
Yeah, let's say weight loss.
I think people get too bogged down in their starting point. It honestly really doesn't matter where you start. People are so obsessed with these calorie calculators. Oh, come use mine. Give me your email address. I'll give you a calorie calculator, blah, blah, blah. They're all online. You can go and Google them. They're free. You don't need to give your email, whatever. It's going to give you a ballpark figure. That figure will not be right for you, but you can monitor and adapt from that figure and you can find out what's going to work for you. And it really doesn't matter. Like if I just took a group of 1,000 women and gave them all roughly, say let's start them all on like 1,600 calories. They all want to come for fat loss. It's probably going to be right for most of them. 1,600 calories. I want you to walk 10,000 steps a day. I'm going to get you to train 3 times a week. What you like in terms of what you're asking them to do, yeah, that's pretty generic, but it's the support that you give them to do that. And then it's the check-ins and the monitoring and adapting from that baseline start point that is like the skill of coaching, really. So I think people do get a little bit too bogged down in where you're starting and specific numbers. And I mean, a good example is like no one's gonna, even if a calorie calculator comes out saying, okay, you need to diet on 1,722 calories, no one's dieting on that, are they? They're dieting on 1,700 or they're dieting on 1,750. Like you're gonna round it anyway. And there's so many things that those calculators can't tell us. They can't tell us if you've dieted before, meaning that your basal metabolic rate might be a little bit lower. They can't tell us if you're going through menopause, meaning your basal metabolic rate might be a little bit lower. They can't tell us if you've got PCOS, again, affecting your metabolic rate. So many factors that can come into things. And one part of you could just overanalyze everything, try and guesstimate these things. We don't know how much metabolic adaptation you will have had. So we can't say, but we can say that 1600 is a start point. If you're not losing weight on it, then we'll lower it. If you're finding it's too restrictive, then we'll increase it a little bit. That's the art of coaching, is finding ways to help people stick to things and to adjust them as needed, rather than getting too bogged down in like fancy equations to try and figure out someone's NEAT and total daily energy expenditure.
On how do you cope with a client who will swear blind on their children's lives that they have eaten exactly 1,600 calories every single day for the last 2 weeks, whereas in actual fact it's probably closer to 3,000? How do you deal with those types of clients?
So you have to create an environment where they can be honest with you. So opening that discussion up. So, okay, I can see that you're very active. 1,600 calories isn't a lot of calories. Can you show me what you've been eating today? And they might come up with something that, I don't know, maybe it's on MyFitnessPal, but they haven't been eating it. And I look at the food choice. I'm like, oh, that's not very high food volume. Are you sure that you're managing to stick to this? Like, has there been any snacks? I think the key point is that creating an environment where they feel they can be honest with you and where you're not judging them. So even saying things like, well, like I have people come to me all the time, like, oh, I tried to stick to 1,200 calories, but I just end up binging. And I'm like, yeah, so would I. So would anyone. Like, that's a ridiculous amount of calories to try and stick to, given your activity, given that you're trying to train on top of that. So I think being real, being approachable, being honest with them and hoping that they'll be honest with you, and making sure they know that you're not there to judge them, you're there to help them. And you can't help them unless they're willing to be open and honest with you, so that you can find solutions for them. And also understanding that, or letting them know as well, that it's not as easy for everyone. Like, just because your mate can stick to 1,500 calories doesn't mean that you can. And there's loads of reasons why that might be. That could be genetic, that could be environmental. Like, there's so many factors that come into why it's easier for some people to stick to a certain calorie target than it is for other people to, and why some people have a higher drive to eat than other people do. So dieting is easier for some people, and that doesn't mean that it's impossible for you if you've been dealt like a poor hand genetically. It just means that you might need more support, and that we might need to look at other ways to create that deficit that is going to work for you better. And I guess like reassuring them that this is like a team situation, like we're working together to get you results.
Cool. Happy days. Thank you very much. Right, let's all masturbate.
Great.
Don't say that sarcastically. Before we started, you said that this was going to be the bit that you were looking forward to the most.
Did I? Yeah, I did actually. Yeah.
I think you did actually. Right, so I have my what's left of my 20 topics.
Tupperware full of topics.
Yeah, Tupperware. Yeah.
How bro?
Tupperware of topics. How the fitness industry has changed. Right. ESG. Please choose a hand, left or right.
Left.
Left. The suspense is killing everybody. Evidence-based.
Oh.
Evidence-based. You could have got Joe Wicks, but you've got evidence-based. You could have had bodybuilding or spinning, but we've got evidence-based, which I think is quite poignant. And what I'm going to ask you to do, Emma, is you're going to go against. So you're going to give me all of the reasons why an evidence-based approach is not a good one. And then Josh, you are going to go the opposite, and you're going to tell me why evidence-based practice is so amazing. Josh, do you want to go first?
Okay. Are you timing me? How long?
60 seconds each. I have my. Actually, no. Fuck Apple. Well, I'm going to time you the peasant way. Casio.
Woo!
Right. Are you ready? Joshua,
Indeed.
your 60 seconds to tell me all of the amazing things about evidence-based practice starts now.
Okay, so I believe that evidence-based practice is the best way to move forward as a personal trainer, because it keeps you as current as possible with the latest research. And that means that you stay up to date with best practice. It means that you can also get better results for your clients. And what it does is it minimizes something that is rampant in our industry, which is basing your practice on pseudoscience or basing your practice on your opinion. And obviously, when you base your practice and your clients' results on pseudoscience and opinion, what you're actually doing is gambling with the most effective way of getting them results. Boom. I would drop my microphone, but I can't.
10 seconds to go. Emma, he's talking a nonsense, isn't he? Can you please tell us why?
Okay, I dispute this notion. I think being strictly evidence-based usually means that you are behind the times, that you are missing out on techniques, tactics, ways of coaching that work, that we know work from experience, just because there isn't evidence for them yet. I think we've already spoken about interval training, so I'm not going to talk about that. But experience with real people is going to get you much further than just being evidence-based. We know there are huge limitations to research: sample size, population. Most research is done in men. What are we on? 20 seconds. Study design, repeatability. Can these studies even be repeated? There's a huge study on psychology showing that most psychology research can't be repeated. You're also making the assumption that what works on average is going to work for an individual. And we know that brains are important, but biceps are more important.
Happy days. So, on a serious note, I think we definitely covered this earlier, but it's fair to say the general consensus was that having an eye on evidence is definitely a good thing. Being able to read and interpret data is only going to help us. However, we also have to understand that it's going to change, and it's going to change quite quickly. So it's difficult to learn something once 10 years ago and then expect that to be true forever. And of course, evidence-based is always going to have its drawbacks, as Emma explained, in terms of sample sizes and genders.
Sorry, just to jump in there, because you said things are going to change quite quickly. One of which is the time it takes to publish research. Like studies I've worked on, it took almost 2 years to publish. And that's not particularly long period of time. Like it can take a hell of a long time to, once something's actually published, and then it has to be repeated, because one study doesn't really show that much. Okay, we need that's sort of given us one piece of the puzzle, but it normally, especially if it's sort of a new area of research, just digs up more questions which need more research. So you're really looking at like years and years ago, we thought this might be the case. Okay, now we actually have evidence for it. And if you're waiting for the evidence, but like, I do want to just sort of caveat all this with like, that doesn't excuse just doing ridiculous things, being like, well, there's limitations to evidence. Like if you have evidence to prove that what you're suggesting is actually wrong, that's different.
Yeah.
So you might say, oh, I found that, I don't know, like cutting carbs was really useful, and in my experience that works with loads of people. Okay, great. But if we found evidence to suggest that was that was the wrong thing to do, then you shouldn't be doing it anymore.
Yeah. And likewise, if you're getting your evidence from somebody on Instagram who's got 150,000 followers, then that doesn't necessarily make it true.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might do, but not always. Oh, Emma, it was nice to see you masturbate with Josh. Very very pleasing to watch. You did very well.
I'm glad you were here to watch.
Yeah, it was nice. It was brilliant, and it's nice that other people will be able to share and join in this momentous occasion.
Horrendous.
Emma, I do believe you have got 3 statements for us.
Oh yeah.
2 of which are false, and 1 that is true. If you
Okay, do you want me to?
Pardon?
Do you want me to say them?
Yeah, if you could read them out, and then me and Josh will decide which we think is the true one.
Okay.
Make sure you've got your poker face on.
Okay. I'm really bad at reading, and I used to have to go to dyslexia classes until they realised that I didn't have dyslexia. I was just really, really bad at reading and spelling. That's number 1. Number 2 is that I got married at 22, and we argued so much about which name to take. That's why I have a double-barreled name. And number 3 is that I used to really fancy Mark. Couldn't keep a straight face for that one.
No brainer, isn't it? Number 1 and number 2, absolute bullshit. Hang on, what's all this used to? What do you mean used to?
Well, maybe that's the lie.
Yeah, okay. So, were you really, really bad at reading? I'm pretty sure you were reading that off as you said it, so it's quite ironic. But it could have been. So number 1, I'm not going to dismiss number 1. Number 2 was, what was number 2 again?
That was the reading, wasn't it? Or did I start with that?
Started with that.
So number 2 is that I got married at 22.
Oh, married.
That's why I have a double-barreled name.
I don't think that's true. If that's true, that's the first I've ever even had a sniff of anything along those lines. I don't think that you are married and or were married.
Well, I'm not married now.
So you would have changed it back. You'd be back to Emma Storey within days.
It would have actually been back to Emma Gordon.
Oh, Emma Gordon.
Which is quite a common name and wasn't as good for business.
Common as in rough, or common as in you see them everywhere?
Common as in if you Google it, lots of Emma Gordons come up. Google Emma Storey-Gordon, nobody else comes up.
So in that case, I'm definitely dismissing number 2. And of course, number 3 is the biggest load of shit I've ever heard. So I'm going to go for number 1. I think the reading was very bad, but I think now it's improved.
Okay. So number 1, reading. I don't think that's true, just because of your academic background that you've told us about. However, I know you could have had a rough start with reading and then turned it around, but I don't think that's the case. The second one about the marriage, you just said a minute ago that you kept the name for better SEO rankings. And I don't think, from what you said about your business values, I don't think that is the case. And I'm actually going to go for number 3. I think number 3 is true.
Okay, so I now reveal?
Yeah, the big reveal.
Do you want me to go through all of them?
Can do.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, okay, so what was number 1 was the reading. Yeah, okay, so I am really bad at reading. I actually still really struggle to read.
So is that the correct one?
Yeah, you were right. I don't like it. And everyone's always like, oh, look at all these books I have. And yeah, I don't know. I just really struggle with it. I do force myself to read, but I'm not very good.
Happy days.
And then, no, so my parents got married when I was 22 and I changed my name. And not that, and actually one of the reasons I did change my name is because I wanted to have a slightly different name, because it's too common just to have Emma Gordon. So there you go. And then number 3, no, sorry, I don't fancy Mark. I haven't. Yeah. He's not quite feminine enough for me.
I'll work on it.
Yeah. Anything can happen nowadays. You know, changes can happen.
Yeah, I can identify as a female, no problem. In
Sorted.
fact, I just did. off to
Markella.
off to Twickenham with my rugby boots to play for the ladies' rugby team.
God, have you seen all of the stuff about that?
Yeah,
So I think,
I have.
and I kind of agree with it, because I think it's just a bit dangerous. Like, if I could imagine, well, let's just imagine Mark rugby tackling me. Probably not the safest thing.
I thought you said you didn't fancy me. Now you want a rugby tackle. Come on, Emma.
I listened to such an interesting podcast. Did you guys hear about the Caster Semenya thing? Do you know who that is? Yeah. So she's a South African 800-meter runner, and she has testes. I don't think she has ovaries. Anyway, she's got very high testosterone levels.
Yeah.
But she's been brought up as a female, and she's like I think she has the world record. I'm not sure, but she's like the world champion and is so far ahead of anyone in the 800 meters. And then she's sort of been like disqualified from competition, and there's this whole court proceedings that I think she took it to the court of arbitration or something, basically to say that it meant that she couldn't work, which I guess is true. But then they were saying it's unfair, it's an unfair advantage, which again is true. And the only thing she can do now is to take testosterone lowering drugs in order to reach like the level that which is deemed like quote unquote normal for a woman, and then she can compete. And on the surface you're kind of like, okay, except that when you look into it, like, these drugs massively increase her risk of cardiovascular disease, that they're extremely harmful to her. And actually even finding a doctor that would do that as in, basically you're saying, my work is telling me I need to take these drugs, which I don't want to take, and will impact my health negatively. Will you do that for me? So she's not going to be able to find a doctor that would do that. And equally, from the research, this very small amount of research we have in lowering testosterone, I don't think she'd even make an Olympic final anymore. So even if she did lower them, she wouldn't make any money from running anymore. So but I guess it brings up this whole big debate about like females in sport or transgender women in sport, and yeah, interesting.
There's the Caster Semenya case is like when you actually, on the surface, your typical like Daily Mail reader will read a headline and have an opinion on it. When you actually kind of dig into the actual story about and how that they're almost making her prove that biologically she's a female, as like it's not like she's just chosen to have an operation. She used to be a bloke, now she's portraying herself as a female, and this is the end result. It's a very unfortunate case for her. I feel sorry for the poor girl. Like it's terrible.
Oh yeah, massively. And then you think, right, where's the line? Because if you're really tall in the NBA, that's an advantage. Great.
Yeah.
But she's, and any woman that has slightly higher levels of testosterone has a bit of an advantage. So where's the line where, oh no, that advantage isn't fair anymore? That advantage is no longer, that's a God-given gift. That is now, nah, that's not fair. And I guess there has to be a line, but it is, it's hard to see. And I think people have compared, like, even like Michael Phelps, who has, doesn't he have like webbed toes? So is that, I mean, that's giving him an advantage. Is that an unfair advantage? But, oh no, that's a natural advantage. Well, she naturally has higher testosterone levels. Yeah. Isn't that natural as well? Like,
it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's really difficult to, and like you say, of course there has to be a line, but where do you put that line? Wherever you put it, one day someone is going to come along who's an inch the other side of the line, and then you either have to backtrack, or you have to change the rules, or you have to upset them. It's I think with the recent rugby thing, that is slightly, in terms of running the 800 meters. Okay, you run the 800 meters. What's the worst that happens? You break the world record for 10 years, and nobody beats it. Like, nobody's died. It's not the end of the world. Then when you look at rugby as well, it's actually a collision-based sport. When you look at contact, combat, and collision-based sports, people have to say that everybody is physically equal. Well, if they're saying that, then why do we have a men's team and a women's team? That's not saying one is better than the other one, but if they're all equal, then just all the ladies play men's rugby, and if they get to the England level, great, good for them. But obviously, from a performance perspective, that's not going to happen, because I think Serena Williams was interviewed last week, and I think she said something like, if a man who's ranked 300 in the world decided to identify as a female to play on the female tennis circuit, he would be unbeatable. So even the people at the top of the game, they understand. Of course, there is a difference between us. For men have a physical advantage, generally speaking, and women have got advantages in that they're not fucking morons like most men are. So that's my get out of jail free card in there. But when you go into a contact,
it's safety as well, isn't it? Like what you're saying with the 800 meter, like, although it might not be fair and it sort of maybe undermines female sport, if you're letting people with high testosterone levels compete in that, it's no longer a level playing field.
Yeah.
But at least people aren't getting concussed and potentially having like brain injuries.
Massively, yeah. I interviewed Barry McGuigan a couple of years ago, and he talked a lot about this, because they'd had in professional boxing, they'd had male boxers who hadn't made it as a professional, identified as a female, took a few hormone tablets, but had no operation, and then they were trying to compete as females, punching other women in the face to knock them out. And I was like, where's the ethical line, let alone
this is what I don't understand about that. And same with like unnatural bodybuilders competing in natural federations. Like, it's me walking up to like a 5-year-old and being like, do you want a race? And then getting a huge ego boost out of beating a 5-year-old. It's like, you have an advantage. You know that you're cheating and you have an advantage. Like, why do you get anything from winning this? Very odd.
I think my personal opinion, other opinions are available, is that it ties into people's desperation to be famous for 5 minutes. So, like, was it George Orwell said, we'll all be famous for 15 minutes. And I think now you can have 1 million Instagram followers, you can have a Facebook Live, and if you're like ridiculously controversial one way or another, you're going to get more traction. Like, do too many people now think the world revolves around getting your name in a national newspaper, or being featured on the news, or your tweet going viral or trending on social media or something? Maybe not, but I just think too many people are too besotted with that, like, false kind of romance of I need to be famous or well known or talked about, whereas in actual fact probably don't. Jim Carrey, on that note, Jim Carrey talks openly about how he wishes everybody in the world could be A-list Hollywood famous for like a day, because they would realize how fucking terrible it is, and then far less people would be so desperate to be up on that pedestal. I don't know, I might be wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I would hate, like, everyone has an opinion on what you do. You really have no freedom. Someone's going to judge you no matter what. You know, it's just, you're so constrained by things. It's much better to be, I don't know, one of the masses, not well known.
This is like, if I ring ITV, they'll probably take Loose Women off the air and they might put us on, because we're tackling topical issues that the people want to hear about.
Yeah.
I see. Ring Chloe. See if she can pull.
Do they often talk about shagging goats on Loose Women?
That's where they've been going wrong.
Yeah.
Not once have I heard.
Get the ratings up.
Yeah, not once have they had a segment on masturbation.
They probably have spoken about masturbation, no?
They probably have. They probably have. Just they didn't do it like we do.
Nobody does.
Josh.
Yes.
To finish off, are there any pressing matters in the UK PT group that need us to address them?
So there's one that we've already kind of covered, but I think we could probably have a chat about. The question was, is it good money working as a personal trainer in a gym? Do you lose money to start with? And while you were doing something earlier, Mark, I had a read through the comments, and some of them are fucking atrocious. And
all right, let's hear it.
That's me being honest. So some people have some very good points. You know, if you put in the work, then you can make good money. It can take some time, but it depends on your gym. Some gyms charge a lot for rent. They don't really give you anything but access to a facility, which I would argue is what you're paying for anyway. Someone's put
damn those gyms giving you access to £2 million worth of equipment and maintaining it.
Paying rent so that I can use a facility. Isn't that like
fucking bastards?
And then someone said the industry standard is £50,000 a year, or a good trainer should be earning £100,000 a year. That's what I take issue with, that comment.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Do you know what's quite sad? And I think it's very hard to know the stats because a lot of face-to-face personal trainers aren't paying enough taxes. And I don't know if that's affected the stats on it, but I'm sure it was something ridiculous like 18 grand a year. That's like average personal trainer income.
Yeah. I always say that, like I say, there's no, it's difficult to get an exact answer to it, but we might actually probably put a survey together, like an anonymous survey in the group, and ask people to genuinely say.
That would be cool. That'd be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to be anonymous, or you'd get people doing like one of two things. Like, this is why I don't trust the stats, because you have PTs, and I've overheard them in the gym being like, I overheard someone in the gym here talking about how they earn, I think it was like 65 grand a year. But given that like the going rate for personal training in Dundee is like 35 pounds an hour, and knowing how much I see them in the gym, I'm like, the maths doesn't add up. Like, you don't have that many clients, so you cannot be earning that much money. But I think you'll get some people that will overinflate what they earn. They're like, oh yeah, I earn this much. And then you'll get other people that, if they think HMRC are going to see it, they're like, oh no, funny that I actually just made just under 11 grand this year again.
Damn it, I was £10 under the limit. Next year, I promise I'll make amends. It's very, very difficult to get a figure, but I can't see the average earning of a fitness professional being far out of the 16 to 22 grand bracket. I'm saying average. There'll be people who earn 100 grand a month. Yes, there'll be people who earn fucking £100 a month. And in my experience over the last 5-6 years, the amount of gyms that I've delivered sessions at, that I've gone into and taught at, and the amount of PTs that I've had access to, I would be amazed if it was much higher than, even if you called it 20 grand a year average. I think that's probably a fair figure. And on the note of
the other thing, you have to, like, it's not just what you're earning, it's your expenses.
Yeah.
So I personally trained in London for a bit. Did I make more money? Yes. Did I have more money in my bank account? No. And because you can charge more per hour, but the rent is higher and the cost of living is obviously higher. Whereas you come up to Scotland and you're like, oh, I'm only making £30 an hour, which might not seem like very much, but also it's really cheap to live here. So do you have more money in your account? Yeah. That has to come into consideration as well. And there are certain places, like I think some people that just like sort of blanket recommend what you should be charging per hour as well. Like you need to know your demographic and you need to know where you're living, and that's going to vary at different parts of the UK.
Massively. And on that note of if you're a good PT, you should be earning 50 grand a year, or if you're a good PT, you should earn 100 grand a year. But there will be fucking diabolically poor PTs that earn 500 grand a year, and there will be fantastic PTs that are struggling on 15 grand a year. I don't think there's, of course, the better you are at your job, the more likely you are to earn well from it. But it's not as clear cut as if you're good, you earn this much. If you're shit, you earn this much, because it just isn't at all.
I also think
agreed.
The question itself needs more context. So
yeah,
for me, good money is going to be a certain amount. For you two, good money could be completely different. So I think saying, is it good money working as a PT in a gym, needs to be contextualized first. And I think where it says, do you lose money to start? I think, again, that's down to your setup. That's down to your business structure. You know, if you went online straight away and you have very minimal cost, then you're probably not going to lose any money. But likelihood is, if you start a business, like most businesses, first year, 2 years, you're going to lose money. And I think, like you said, Mark, massively agree. I've known personal trainers that were fucking terrible, absolute douchebags. And they were fully booked all the time because they were in amazing shape and the clients didn't know any different. And then I have personal trainers that had insane knowledge, great customer skills, like they were amazing, but they struggled and they're no longer in the industry. So I think saying, well, if you're a good PT, you'll be fucking, you'll be rolling in it, mate. That's absolute fucking nonsense. Makes me
it's just not that clear cut, is it? Not at all. I think like I commented on that post and I said to the lady about sorry, my Freya's just woken up and she's decided to flap her ears all around. So, she'll probably come and jump on me in a minute. I said to her about, like, when she said, is it good money? I was like, well, to find that out, it's going to be very, very different for everybody. You need to work out, what are my outgoing bills each month? What is my cost of living, and how much money do I want to save every month, and how much pocket money do I want to have to spend on drugs and hookers or copies of the Beano, whatever it is you spend your pocket money on. Like, when you've got all of that, then that gives you a figure of how much you need to try to earn. And if you beat it...
and if anyone wants to work that out for themselves, you can Google what's called your freedom number, and it kind of like figures that out for you, like the amount you want to earn at least. And then that gives you, especially when you're starting a business, a bit of like an aim, like I need to earn this much. And then after that, I guess you make up your own decisions about whether you want to work more or whether you want to just go on more holidays or you want to spend more time with your family, and that's up to you.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very, very subjective figure for every person, whether you've got expensive, lavish hobbies and lifestyle habits, or if you're happy just sitting at home with no furniture and like a minimalist sort of lifestyle. It's very, very, very different. And 20 grand is good money for some people a year. Some people are going to need 20 grand a month. It's all relative. I honestly hit somewhere between that 2-3 grand a month bracket, and I think you're laughing.
Good times. I think, again, it just comes down to people's goals. Like, I'll be honest, I could probably live quite comfortably on 3 grand a month, just me, like as a joint income for me and my wife. But my goals for my business are much, much higher than that, because why not? Like, if I have the capability to do it, so I might as well try, Yeah. I think, like, there's a certain mentor out there, I'm not going to name him, but he gets a lot of shit online because you see his adverts, he's fucking huge. And he's always talking about online training and making, I think 100 grand a month was his kind of income. But I know he is legitimately doing that. I know a friend of his, he's in the States, and he is doing I think actually now he might be doing close to $1 million a month. And like, if that's what he wants to do, so be it. But obviously that's not going to be the case for everyone. That's not going to be the industry average. I wish it was, that'd be amazing. But it's, it's always down to the individual and what they want to do. Like, I just think that's what people forget. Again, it comes back to that comparison. And could that be because we're all fucking obsessed with social media and we're addicted to comparing ourselves to others?
Mm.
I know, right? So I think that's pretty much us done for today, isn't it, Mark?
Unless there's any other interesting questions in there that in the group, nothing else.
I only have one more question for Emma, and that is if anybody wanted to get in touch with you or find out more about your services such as EIQ Nutrition and the EC method, where should they go?
You can find me on Instagram at ESG Fitness, or you can go to www.esgfitness.co.uk, eiqnutrition.com, the ecmethod.co.uk. And I would be happy to chat to you about anything.
Amazing. So what I'll do...
Including goats?
Anything from shagging goats to Caster Semenya to how much money you're earning as a personal trainer.
A wide and diverse range.
Holistic.
Definitely. Cool. Emma, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for humouring us. It's interesting just to hear, as I said at the start, to hear somebody who has a very good education background, but who still works with clients who are at square one, and also from an educational perspective, teaching personal trainers who are teaching clients who are starting from square one. So it gives us a kind of a nice, on a serious note, it gives us like a well-rounded balance. And hopefully, as a personal trainer listening to this, if they've been in the industry 2 minutes, 2 years, or 20 years, there's something that will hopefully resonate with them, and they can find you and pick up all sorts of little pearls of wisdom.
Thank you so much for your time, Emma. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me on.
See you again soon.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. Don't forget to check back weekly for new episodes. If you want to join the UK's largest Facebook group for personal trainers, just search for UK PTs.